Welcome to the Personal Development Mastery Podcast. I am Agi Keramidas and my mission is to inspire you to grow, stand out and take action towards the next level of your life. I interview leaders, authors, successful entrepreneurs, spiritual teachers, exceptional people who will inspire you to improve your life. Tune in for 2 episodes each week and make sure you subscribe to get them as soon as they are released. In today's episode, I am speaking with Mark Victor Hansen. Mark Victor Hansen is best known as the co-author for the Chicken Soup for the Soul book series, setting world records with over 500 million books sold. A prolific writer, speaker, passionate philanthropist and humanitarian, Mark worked his way into a worldwide spotlight as a sought-after keynote speaker and entrepreneurial marketing maven, creating a stream of successful people who have created massive success for themselves through his unique teachings and wisdom. With his charismatic style, Mark captures his audience's attention as well as their hearts, having spoken to over 6,000 audiences worldwide with his one-of-a-kind technique and masterful authority of his work. Time and again, he continues to receive high accolades from his audiences as one of the most dynamic and compelling speakers and leaders of our time. Mark and his wife, Dwyer Hansen, have co-written their newest book, released in 2020, called Ask, The Bridge from Your Dreams to Your Destiny. Mark, it is a great joy and a privilege to have you in the show today.
I'm delighted to be with you, Aggie. I love people who want to think and be into self-development and self-growth, because I believe everyone's got to get in, learn with our little book, Ask, The Bridge from Your Dreams to Your Destiny, starting with self-awareness to self-expression, to self-mastery, to self-realization.
That's amazing. And the mastery, the self-mastery, it is actually the title of my podcast is Personal Development Mastery. So it's great to see that we're both in the right place here. And you showed me your book. I will show you the other one, the more classic one. You showed the Ask book. And I will share very briefly that most people, myself included, know you from Chicken Soup of the Soul, the book. And I remember reading it back in 2006. I was in Greece, so I read the Greek version of it. And it was after I had watched The Secret, it was presented there. So I got it and read it. And in the conversations in the podcast, I always start with a question about my guest's journey or story, if you want. And usually it's a kind of a key defining moment, a milestone, something of that sort. And I know it's a broad question, but if we narrow it down to Chicken Soup for the Soul and maybe the impact it created, would you like to give me some brief comments on that to start with a little bit of that kind of background?
I'll just say that Jack and I got together. We had what we call a Vulcan mind meld. 2 people come together, mastermind, third new mind.
Yes.
144 publishers all actually said, hit the road, Jack. Now, Dr. Canfield graduated third in his class at Harvard, so I'm teasing and I'm making fun of a serious thing. But then after 144 publishers kicked us out and gave us what are called pink slips saying, nah, that book will never sell. Nobody wants your short stories. A short story sold, we'd sell them. Then our agent wrote us this long letter saying, look, you guys, I've taken you everywhere and you're not going to make it. Well, that's cost him at least $15 million because we sold 500 million books. We've done $2 billion at retail. And then, as you know, I'm the marketing maven of the 2 of us, Dr. Canfield, myself. And I created licensing for books and we, like just Chicken Soup of the Soul dog food, we did 167 million last year at 15%. Because I teach in a book, you got to have a business, then you got to have a market, then you do the book. Everybody does it backwards and doesn't get it right. They do and I did a whole book on just that called "You Have a Book in You." It's one of my 318 books because I want everyone to get it right. I want everyone to write a book. I want everyone to think. I want everyone to grow. I want everyone to expand, like you're saying, and everyone has a story in them they need to share. So, Chicken Soup, we sold 500 million. And my goal, which is one of the reasons we got kicked out of all those places, is I wrote the goals. right? Because I say a goal is defined, Aggie, as a dreamy destination with a deadline that makes your life bigger, better, stronger, healthier, and sources and serves the most magnificent amount of people, which I think everyone should try to figure out in this decade, what are they going to do to serve 1 billion people? Well, I want to serve 1 billion readers. And because I believe, I know there's an answer. Part of your question was, I think you got to read to be freed. And that includes whether it's Greece or Africa or India, and half the people, 4 billion out of 8 billion, can't read. So we got to even change that equation. And you say, well, that's just because you want to sell more books. No, look, a book is the most screaming good, inexpensive deal in the world. I mean, as a former busy dentist that did a big practice, haven't books changed your life again and again positively?
100%, absolutely.
That's why you do this show.
Yes, and you said about people not being able to read, and I will also add to that the people that know how to read, but they don't use this skill that they have acquired, or at least they don't use it to read self-development or books that can actually make a change. They use it to read, I don't know, newspapers or some other things.
So first of all, Jim Rohn answers that. And Mr. Rohn and I did great seminars around the world when he was alive. He just passed away. But Jim would say, if you can read and don't, you're no better than somebody who can't read. That's A. B is that what's happened is that I own a company now called Mark Victor Hansen Library. And what we're doing is we're going to do fiction books, because 95% of all the books written are fiction. But we're going to hybridize it. We'll do fiction that teaches whatever we're trying to teach, and then we'll do the how-to at the end. And that's brand new. It won't be out until next year, but we've already got 28 books in the SKU that are going to change the world, because what you know, because of your country, is that Plato, who's, we can go through the whole hierarchy, Socrates, Plato, Aristotle, Alexander the Great. I think as an outsider, I look at Greece as the citadel of Western learning, at least in the beginning. But Plato said, whoever controls the story, the narrative, controls the world. I've decided with you and with all the authors that want to work with us to change the narrative to be positive, uplifted, inspiring. And at the height of heights, what Socrates was trying to do is have everybody do wisdom. And in the Judeo-Christian term, Solomon is the wisest, richest man of all. He had $4 trillion worth of gold, if you believe the biblical story. And some people say, well, that's a myth. Well, I don't think so, because he controlled the whole Middle East. So he was controlling the whole joint, no war. How's that? And he only had 20,000 Phoenician ships and 12,000 horses. So the guy had a monster operation going. But he didn't go for money and wealth and beauty. Well, he ended up with all that stuff, but he went for the wisdom, which is what we're talking about in your show. And if this is too deep, I can go more general.
No, not at all. I like it. And, well, you mentioned already things like the controlling the stories. And actually, let's talk about stories a little bit. And because you use stories very much, and they are very powerful. And what is it about stories as a teaching tool in specific that makes them so powerful, do you think?
Well, let's just do what we did is I only do books that are 3 things. They got to be unique, they got to be transformational to the reader, and they got to be inevitable, such that they're so powerful the person says, you got to read this book, it just changed my life. So what we did in this book, different than any other book, Ask, The Bridge from Your Dreams to Your Destiny, my wife and I wrote this together, and she's brilliant and wise and wonderful and uplifting and the most extraordinary woman I've ever seen and met and been with. But she started with this great story called The Fable of Michaela. And it's sort of the fable of our time, because you asked about stories, and everybody they start to read this fable and they go, like yesterday, we got 121 letters, and this guy says, I started reading it. I couldn't stop. I woke my wife up. I shook her. I woke her up. I read. Then I went into my teenager. I shook her. I read. And what happens is, so the book's going, because most authors says, how do you get to so many people to read your book? Well, you got to write a book that serves, like I did the subtitle on Chicken Soup with the Soul, right? It's heart touching, soul penetrating stories. And then Jack and I had 7 modalities in our story. The first one is, discernments. It's got to cause God bumps, goosebumps, chilly bumps. And if the story didn't do that for Mark and Jack, we didn't have a test group do it. And if the test group, it didn't do it for them, then didn't matter if it had, I wrote it or Jack wrote it. If it doesn't cut the mustard, if it didn't hit the metric, if your heartbeat isn't somewhere around 72 right now, if you exercise, maybe you can go down to 30, and you look like you're in really good shape. So maybe you run 7 miles a day and you got a really low heart rate and you live longer with a low heart rate. But basically, most Americans would be damn lucky if it was at 72. I exercise at 73 every day, and I'm really solid as a rock. I think you can see that. And I want to live to be 127 with options for renewal. But the story's got to go through, in your mind, into your heart, into your soul, and then come out and change your world, make it better. Or what good is the story, right? And that's what Socrates did. He was going for truth and wisdom and insight and asked penetrating questions such that he had to drink the hemlock. But at least he stayed in integrity.
Yeah. Who was it? I don't remember, that said that quality of the questions you ask is more important than the quality of the answers that you give.
That's exactly what Einstein says. Einstein says, give me a hard problem. I'm going to spend, out of 1 hour, I got 1 hour to solve it. I'll spend 55 minutes making sure I got the right question.
Yes.
And 5 minutes solving it. And now the guy who's going to be that I predict will be the first trillionaire, Elon Musk's partner, Peter Thiel, says, look, everybody's asking the wrong questions and I'm considered a contrarian. Well, when I listen to his questions, I go, no. Peter Thiel's doing the right questions. He wrote a book called 0 to 1, but Peter Thiel's one of my heroes, because if you're not asking the right question, you're going to get the wrong answer. In 1974, I went bankrupt because I was with the smartest guy on the planet, Bucky Fuller, a guy who finished Einstein's unified field theory. We were doing a concept when I was in grad school, getting my doctorate, how to make the world work for 100% of humanity, and make everybody physically and economically successful. But I tried to be Bucky. I'm building the Wall Street Racquet Club, botanical gardens, aviaries in New York City. If you can make it there, you can make it anywhere. The problem, I was building out of plastic. Well, in 1974, America had an oil embargo. You may not have been, I don't know what year you were born, I'm not asking. But the point is that I said, what if I go bankrupt? I go to the world's biggest library, the New York Library. I check out a book, How to Go Bankrupt by Yourself. I asked the wrong question. Of course, I got the wrong result. But it turned out to be the best, worst experience. And now I'm, then I just said the goals and self-help, and it says write too many goals, where everybody else teaches write one goal and go for it. They're wrong. You got 18 billion brain cells. I got 7,000 goals. Now, am I going to hit them all in my lifetime? Probably not. But I've hit 1,586, so I'm doing pretty good. I mean, if I close down with the last breath now, I'm really happy. But I'm not anywhere. I'm really zealous, exuberant, happy, joyous. I think you can see that.
Absolutely. Again, I was about to say it shows, and it actually comes through to the other side of the ocean as well, now that we are.
I hope so, because I'm holding up a mirror, not saying, as Mark great, I'm saying every one of us is great. My teacher, Buckminster Fuller, Dr. Fuller, said all of us are born geniuses and we get unplugged. And what happens with asking is, I don't know what happened in Greece when you went to school, but in America, parents, the little kid's born, who, what, where, when, why, all that stuff, everything. Then they go to school and they say, Aggie, you just sit there and you just learn. I'm going to tell you what's what. No, hell no. Education comes out of Latin. It's educare. It means to draw out. Then you go to military, you go to business, and wrong. No, we need to have more questions, not less questions. And we're saying, and ask yourself, ask others, ask God. What? That's the only 3 channels. And you go, wow, once you know the channels, you start to do that. And we're preventing more suicides with kids because they're being locked down with this COVID confinement. I'm going to call it nonsense based on all the information I got, because it's a ploy against humanity. So, and you're going to see that very shortly, I think.
Yes, it's not a topic that I was prepared to discuss, but I would say very briefly that I agree with you 100%. And yeah.
And that's why we'll both be gentle.
Some people have realized it earlier, others, eventually everyone will. Shall we go back? And I wanted to ask you more about asking, actually, and asking the right questions, which is very important. And You have a story in your book about the power of asking, the power that asking. I will start with that, which, and you talk about children. You have a story of your grandson, Everett, I think, that asked you whether he can be an author with the book with you. So you talk about the way that children ask in their innocent way without fear of being rejected, and also being very resilient. Even if they have a no, they will keep on asking. So I want to go through, it's a big topic, it's the topic of your book, of course, but can we go through some of those things about asking effectively, asking in a way that is more beneficial, and maybe also what prevents us from asking the right questions in the first place? Or am I asking too many questions all at once?
There are three, but I'm going to hit them as fast as I can. How's that?
Perfect.
First of all, we got 5 kids, 6 grandkids, and we love them, and we'll probably have 12 kids before all the kids are done having kids. So, but little Everett is 6 years old. Chris and I, this is before COVID 2 years ago. We're sitting in Hawaii on the beach because I own that energy company in Kona, in Oahu, Hawaii, naturalpowerconcepts.com. Anyhow, little Everett for Christmas had been given a great, we call it a Dick Tracy watch. It's actually called a gizmo. And you call anyone you want, but he was only allowed to call his grandparents, us, and his parents. So of course my cell phone goes and it says Gizmo. Well, I know that's Everett. So I say, "What is it, my little friend?" And he says, "Grampy." And you could just hear him looking around. "Are you alone?" I said, "Yeah, are you alone?" I said, "I'm actually with Grammy, called Mimi." He says, "No, I'm in a closet. I got to talk to you. This is really important." I said, "Great. I have told the kids, and it's important." I don't know if do you have any kids?
No.
Okay, well, those listening with children, it's important that you really listen to the children with your heart and soul and give them prime time. As far as I'm concerned, as a parent and as a grandparent, it's even easier because you only get them for short windows. And I said, "What is it?" He says, "You still writing all those important books?" I go, "Yes, sir." He said, "I want to write the next book with you. Would you let me do that?" Now, remember, he's 6 years old. And of course, we put him in front of the book because what a courageous thing to do, because little kids haven't had their spirits crushed. They haven't been diminished. They haven't been demolished. They haven't been squished. Mm-hmm. So, of course, we did that and we put him in and he's helping. Now, this kid is precocious, and he's so precocious that I'll just do one thing. He can do a Rubik's Cube the first time he got it in 1 minute.
Wow.
This kid is really, he's enlightened, and I'm very thankful that he's ours. But he is going to make a giant impact in the world. And I could go on and on and on. But okay, so that's that part. The reason people don't ask is we wrote in the book, our research, we've been to 80 countries, talked to 7 million people, great people, but they live below their means because they're afraid to ask. And so we discovered the 7 reasons, what we call roadblocks for not asking is, number 1 is sense of unworthiness, fear, doubt, excuses, pattern paralysis, where you keep doing the same thing. And Einstein always said, if you keep doing the same thing and expect a new result, you're cuckoo, you're crazy. And then last but not least, number 7 is disconnection. We can talk about any one of them or none of them, but all of us have some of them at different times. And what happens is the reason we do the book and the fact and the story is because one of those 3 things is going to hit you and you're going to look at it and go, holy cow, that's his story, but that's my story. And that's my disconnect. That's my withhold. I really have a sense of unworthiness. I don't feel competent to do blank. And all of us are here. We believe, and the bottom line is that we have a destiny. We believe you're coded, every one of us at birth, with a destiny. So that's 8 billion destinies. And if you go manifest your destiny by learning to ask, which is not a given, the Bible says ask and you'll receive, but it doesn't detail how to do it. So we said, look, and this book is now chicken soup on steroids. It's selling like crazy, literally around the world. And just, I can't help but do it. But a book I wrote 20 years ago, 1 Minute Millionaire, just got bought by all the licenses in all of Greece and all your allied countries. And I thought, what the hell took them 20 years? I'm not beating up, but I want Greece to get out of the pits and out of the problem of Eve and all that. And you and I know more about geopolitics than most people are listening, so that's probably too far. So I apologize if I OD'd.
That's all right. I will somehow bring you back to those.
Please,
There is one roadblock out of the seven that I would like you to expand a bit more. And
please.
it's the first one, that sense of unworthiness that prevents people from asking the right questions. So tell me a bit more about that, mainly in how can one recognize that, because it is a more subtle feeling. I think, I don't know if you agree with me, it's not something that is obvious in front of us. Oh, I'm not, most people don't say, oh, I'm not worthy, but it is there on the background dictating their inner dialogue and their inner thoughts. So again, I think
Aggie,
I will stop because I'm going to ask another layer of question on that.
Aggie, you did it perfectly. First of all, it is subtle. Second of all, it is hidden. Third, we don't recognize it because everyone suffers it at some level, somehow, sometime. So the story I put in there is by Bob Proctor, who has been my partner in 2 companies. And Bob was born during the Depression. He's now 87. He's going to have the biggest birthday party on his 100th birthday with 1 million people coming because he has 2 million people listening to him every day. And he's in The Secret. He's one of my, he and I are like that. I mean, we're just best friends. So Bob is out of the military in Canada. He lives in Toronto, Canada, on Proctor Lane, and this is way before that. But he is a fireman. He's making $4,000 a month and owes $6,000 a month and drinking every night because that's what everyone did. And all of a sudden he's looking around and says, "These guys are drunks. They're useless. They're not going anywhere." So he goes to the richest, wisest, his buddy Ray Stanford, and said, "Look, you're rich, healthy, happy, and wise. What do I need to do?" He said, "You need to read this book, Think and Grow Rich." And he said, "Look, I can't read." He said, "You learn how to read because you read that book and then you'll be healthy, happy, rich." And Bob has now read it. Whatever I tell you is wrong, but 400, 600 times. You know, both of us read it a lot and own the principles because it never really shows how to get wealthy. It just teaches the principles and philosophy of success and achievement. Well, Bob starts cleaning windows, writes a little 3x5 card, which he teaches that you carry, and I still carry in my wallet, that says, "I'm so happy and grateful, I'm blank." And then you sign it, get your most important business partner or spouse to sign it. First year he made 25 grand, then 175 grand, then $1 million a year. Then he ended up doing window cleaning in Toronto and Montreal and Atlanta, Georgia, UK. And then all of a sudden everybody came to him and said, "Hey, wait a second. How is it that this is so different, that you're different than anyone else? Would you teach us?" And he started teaching it. And then that's about when I met him. And we started doing seminars together, literally around the world, and had a ball teaching people how to make $1 million a year because both of us were doing it. And it's easier to make a lot than a little. So, but it was all because he had a low self-esteem and low sense of self-worth. And his mother said, "Bob, you ask too many questions. Back to your subtle." He didn't know that. And by the way, I met his mom when she was still alive. A great woman, came to our seminars and said, "I didn't know that I was doing that." And I'm not faulting her. It is, parents, my own mom, God bless her, and dad, they said, "God, Marky, all you do is ask questions. Can't you go do something or figure it out or shut up?" Right. But the mind that's healthy, whole, complete, and self-actualizing has endless questions. Don't you have endless questions?
Yes, I do.
That's why you're doing this show. And that's why everybody that's eavesdropping, what are we doing? I know I'm waxing on here, but we're opening up their mind because you're supposed to ask questions. You're not supposed to be a drone. You're not supposed to, "I go to work from 9 to 5. I come home and have dinner and then I watch TV and go to sleep and do the same thing the next day." You're not a damn robot. You're here to be a human becoming, which is what we do a whole chapter on. You're a human being. No, you're a human becoming.
Hi, it's Aggie here, interrupting you with something you may find useful. One of the most frustrating feelings is when you're trying to focus, but you can't get your brain to concentrate on the important work in front of you. This happens to me all the time, and if it happens to you too, you are not alone. 40% of people say they have to make a big effort to concentrate. But if you're having trouble getting focused, I have a solution for you. I'm so excited to be partnering with Brain FM. Brain FM is a great app. and I use it to block out my mental chatter and zone in on my number one priority of the day. Brain FM uses functional music that is backed by science and research, and it is designed to give us that extra edge when we need our undivided attention. And they also have relaxation, meditation, and deep sleep modules that help you unwind and recharge. So if you want to be able to place your full attention exclusively in the activity you choose, whether that's meaningful work or relaxing or getting high quality sleep, right now, as my podcast listener, you get 20% off Brain FM subscription at brain.fm/Aggie. That's an amazing deal for such a useful app. Thousands of people have given 5-star reviews to Brain FM. Find out why? brain.fm/Aggie. I like that very much, and I was actually meaning to ask you to get a comment from that. Changing the question, what will I get from it, to the question, what will I become by going in that direction? Because it really changes the perspective. And one thing that it was a realization of mine a few years ago when I started my personal development journey, as I call it, that it is not about me. I mean, the term personal implies that it is about me as a person. And it took me a while to realize that what I'm doing personally has an impact on the collective. So it is my own personal growth is it's the contribution to whatever it is out there that I'm meant to contribute to. There is, as far as I can tell, there is no other way of doing that apart from bettering or improving with the loose meaning of these words, who I am.
That's correct. Because whatever you add to the word I am, you become. So the first question we're asking is, who do you want to be? Next is, what do you want to do? Then it's, what do you want to have? What do most people do? They say, well, if I have it, then I would do it. No, that's backwards. You got to be it before you can do it, before you can have it. I wrote down when I was bankrupt and upside down, I was going to become the world's best-selling author. I wrote in a wild business plan of Mark and Jack that I was going to sell 1 billion books. And looking at it with hindsight after all these years and selling 500 million books en route to 1 billion, I can see that the publisher would look, I don't know what Mark's doing, but he must be smoking. I don't do any dope or drugs or any of that, but I don't know what he's doing, but he's a little weird thinking he can sell 1 billion books. And now I have people say, well, you're like Roger Bannister. Do you remember who Roger Bannister was?
Absolutely.
First guy to do a 4-minute mile. And I said, that's correct. But what you don't know, maybe, is that the next week, 119 people did it. Now, what does that mean? That means he physiologically, I mean, you had to study physiology, anatomy, and all that good stuff as a dentist. You know, physically, after Bannister, who's a medical doctor, as you know, in 1953, we're no different, but he broke the barrier. I'm breaking the barrier. I'm saying, people are saying, well, you're hogging the list. Hell no, I'm making the list bigger. I want everyone to read. I want 8 billion people to read. I want a free reading. You got to read to be freed. And I don't care what language you read in. That's not my issue. My issue is today we have enough technology to get everyone there. And I'm going to work as hard as I can to get that, because what you said about personal is impersonal. And the way it works is what Christ said, the greatest amongst you at the Last Supper is a servant of all. Right? How do we serve everybody? And people are saying, well, I'm hogging the list. I said, no, I'm setting a new standard. So people quit saying, I'm going to sell 5,000 books out of my garage or keep. No, get 50,000, 500,000 readers, get 500 million. And you say, well, how does that work? Well, the minute somebody did $1 trillion company only 3 years ago, well, now we have $5 trillion companies and $2 trillion companies in America. So you know, $2 trillion companies. I got to say it right. The point is, it is a new hurrah. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And it's really exciting.
I will ask you a bit more about what you said about the Bannister and that the mental barrier, or some people call it a glass ceiling. That right. It's not real there, but in our mind, or in many people's minds, it is very real, and it stops them in many ways, restricts them from tapping into their potential or anything like that. So your comments on that mental barrier and how to break it?
Well, first of all, you got to get definite with the infinite. I got definite with the infinite's infinite. And you and I are made in the image and likeness of the infinite. Therefore, we have infinite stuff in us, right? I mean, back when all the stuff that we're doing right now, like flying, Leonardo da Vinci drew pictures of a helicopter. Now, I don't know whether he went to an altered state, whether he, met with an extraterrestrial. I'm not interested. I'm not worried about any of that. What I'm saying is, all the stuff on the earth was there then, just like all the water on the earth exists right now. Now we're misusing it, but we can talk about all that too. But the fact of the matter is, all that potential, all the electricity existed, but they didn't know how to do it, so they had candles. Mm-hmm. I'm not making them wrong. I'm just saying today we got to break through all these limitations, and we now have the technology to do that for the first time in history. And enough of us are thoughtful, enough of us are like-minded, enough of us are willing to mastermind, where I said 1 and 1, like Bob Proctor and I get together to have the power of 11, and my wife and I are a perfect mastermind. And we're two hearts that became one giant soul called, instead of soulmates, we're twin flames. It's a higher level. And that's where, for the first time in history, we can go. And I hope I can inspire like Socrates did. I mean, that would be our goal. I mean, we used him throughout the book, as you can tell. I mean, I like that he was nicknamed Sock. What a name.
Yes, I don't think it would actually fit with how the Greek name is, cutting it like that, but that's fine. I'm sure he doesn't mind.
Well, no, because here's what he said: truth is truth, no matter who says it.
Yes.
In other words, truth is the truth, whether he said it, Plato said it, Christ said it, Buddha said it. It doesn't. The truth is always going to hold up the mirror in truth, and so hopefully you're seeing that I'm doing everything I can to deal in the truth, and anything you want to say I don't agree with, you just say I don't agree with, or we'll get letters back from people. And if you want to write Aggie. He doesn't get enough mail. No, you won't get any complaint letters from this, because what happens is what we're doing is waking people up, and that is your job. God gave you, as far as I'm concerned, I don't know you that well, but your new assignment is helping other people get to their destiny, which is destiny. And I've never said this before. There's a brand new revelation as I'm having it. So if it's not correct, tell me. But destiny is always a one-off, meaning an individual. Mm-hmm. Destiny is always omni-beneficial, so it always serve other people as far as I can see it. And number 3 is that at the front end, it's going to be a struggle and a stress, and it's going to be hard. But once you break through, you're going to source and serve a lot of people. Like, and Elon Musk is perfect. The Tesla car, he sells 12 homes to stay alive, and he's arguably the richest guy in the world, and going to do, as far as I'm concerned, the most good with energy. Mm-hmm. So I'm a fan.
And actually, you gave a nice bridge there, Mark, to talk a bit more about something different. You mentioned technology, and we were discussing before we started recording this conversation about your passion about the health of the planet. I actually read a comment, or you said it, that the soul of the world is in trouble. And I liked very much this kind of description. So, and I was very interested to find out that you are passionate about the planet and the need to create sustainable energy solutions. And actually, there is I'm going to something specific with that. There is a topic I want to discuss with you. And you also mentioned him earlier, Buckminster Fuller. He has a famous quote that you never change things by fighting the existing reality. To change something, build a new model that makes the existing model obsolete. So, for me, in this time, in this era that we live, if I take that phrase, the existing reality is, these institutions that we have given the power to, the governments, the corporations, and And I don't believe they will be able to solve the problem. So it is up to us to stand for ourselves and build that new model that the phrase says. First of all, my question is, do you agree that this is a matter of all of us? There is this phrase that's been said that we are the ones we've been waiting for. So it's up to us. It's not up to an organization, a government, or a corporate to save us. It is up to us.
Yeah, it's up to us to ask the questions and understand that Christ said in John 10:10, I've come that you might have life and have more abundantly, because he could see 2,000 years later where we are now. Technology, for the first time, can make it easier, better, faster, and free us. Now, technology is a two-edged sword like everything, right? Mm-hmm. A match can either warm the house or burn it down, right? Fire can go either way. Same with technology. And AI is the top example. I mean, I love that I can punch in an address and get to your house wherever you live, right? If you live in the United States, which you do now. And the fact of the matter is it does amazing stuff. But I'm in the alternative energy device business where I found this genius, the Leonardo da Vinci of our time, and we started a company called Natural Power Concepts. We put the first couple $1 million in, and we're still putting money in, but it's suddenly ready to burst after 12 years. So back to your question about, is there a time frame? Everything has a time frame, right? And not right now is the right time, because we cannot keep using petrochemicals the way we're talking about. Bucky would say 100 million year old resource. I mean, it's wonderful, and all you do is punch a hole in the ground and you hit 1 in 103 wells you dig. But I'm saying, look, we're writing a book right now. I will not do the title publicly because we haven't patented and trademarked it and registered it yet. But it is, I told you earlier, it just is so kick-ass that we're going to change the world. We've got a windmill that does have a patent on it called Wind Charger. They're making them in Pennsylvania right now, and it'll go 360 degrees. It'll be urban wind. Not the big stuff like in Palm Springs, but or you see in Hawaii, in Holland, but little stuff that everybody can have their own wind generation, because E equals MC squared. E is all the energy of physical universe, either congealed as matter, hard stuff, or radiant. Mm-hmm. Well, radiance is two forms, sunlight, and then it also creates the wind. And the wind, we're going to take the wind when you're not using solar panels. So suddenly we'll get green, clean, sustainable energy, because right now we're polluting ourselves out, and then we'll have enough energy to clean up the whole ocean, because one of the devices we got is going to do hydrogen, which is, you take water and you break H2O into O and H. And the point is we'll have plenty of light energy, and we're going to have it all clean and green, and run all the cars that way too, as far as I'm concerned, and trucks, buses, and boats, and airplanes. And I've even talked to Richard Branson about that. He's one of the guys that's totally in alignment with you and I on exactly that.
Mark, would you say that there are few people that envision or work, never mind about envisioning, work towards that direction of a better future rather than the dark future or the dystopic AI, or however you want to call it? Do you think there are enough people out there? And I don't talk about the pioneers. I don't talk about Elon Musk or Richard Branson. I'm talking about more people, like in terms of an amount of people.
Here's what's amazing. Two things. Number one, first of all, the big guys in energy know that we're in a transition period. And a transition they know is going to happen like that. It's like AT&T did not see the mobile phone coming. They did not see that Steve Jobs had dematerialized photos in the phone and everything else, so they missed it, right? Duh. And what has the energy guys are saying, hey, wait a second, Mark, you and your partners are all telling the truth, so we're only interested in energy. We don't care where the kilowatt hour energy comes from, whether it's wind or solar or geothermal. And if yours is clean, green, and sustainable, and it doesn't have any pollutant, and it got energy credit, and they're coming to us in droves. So it is going to switch as fast as a phone. We're talking about a decade to 2 decades, but that's fast enough to save the planet. And everybody will have energy. Just like right now, 10 years ago, there's no such thing as a cell phone, and now 8 billion of us have one. Now, obviously in Africa and India, they're $15 are not expensive like this, but I got the best that exists because I can afford it. But the point is, everybody's going to have this stuff and the price keeps coming down and the volume keeps going up because technology is anything that changes the world makes it better. Just like your seminar, this is a technology. You and I are dealing with a Zoom technology or Space StreamYard or whatever we're on right now. I'm not biased. I'm just saying that didn't exist before the problem. So COVID is waking us up to new solutions.
Absolutely, it does. But technology aside for a moment, bringing back, asking again about the people, the human beings. Let me ask you as clearly as I can. So what do you think it would take for more people to stop feeding their energy to this system, these institutions that we have given power to and they can't solve the problem, and take that energy and start feeding it to a better future, a more beautiful future, a regenerative future?
It's exactly what I said. Is our company is now taking people like you and saying, hey, look, author with us because we're going to change the narrative, the story of the world, and we're going to change the world. It's going to happen fast because people are going to read. We're doing mini books that are like 105 pages. So they're instant read, right? 1 hour. I mean, for a slow reader of 250 words a minute, they go, wow, I could read that. And books aren't going to intimidate me. And then we'll also do it in audio. We'll do it in video. We'll do it in movies. We're going to do everything. So I'm dedicated to serving humanity at the highest, best level, and then use instant translate to go into every language that exists. Because look, like I've told you, I've been to Greece 4 times, loved it. And the joke, of course, for an American is they see all the signs and say, it's Greek to me.
Mark, I would like to also ask you some quick fire questions to start wrapping this conversation. So my first one is, what does the term personal development mean to you?
It means everything to me because I was bankrupt, upside down, started reading self-help action books and listening to the tapes, meeting the people, and it totally transformed my life from being broke, upside down, unhappy to being happy, positive, passionately on purpose to make the world work. I've now written 318 books, done lots of YouTube videos, and I got 6,000 more I've written down that I want to do. So we're going to pull off some stuff to help people for free. I mean, I just want everyone to catch the message. Because it just makes my heart glow.
Emerging from this conversation we had today, if you were to give to the listener one actionable item, something they can pick up for what we said and implement it in their lives to improve, what would you say?
My cliche is what you think about comes about, which comes from the Bible, which says, as a man or woman thinketh in his or her heart, so is he or she. So you got to control your thinking. You own your thinking. Your opinion of you and God's opinion of you. That's it.
And one last hypothetical question. Let's say you could go back in time and meet your 18-year-old self. What piece of advice you would give him?
It's amazing that you'd ask that. I would say write more because I started writing at 16 years old. And back to the sense of unworthiness. I wasn't sure anyone was reading me. And yet the people that read me, and even in detention hall, when I started doing that, because I was in trouble because I skipped school and went to see a play in Chicago, Illinois, and came back and somebody snitched on 8 of us that skipped school and went to play together because we thought we were so damn smart. Anyhow, I would say write more. And I've written a lot, but just think how much more I could have done if I wasn't afraid, if I wasn't scared, if I didn't have a sense of worry that I'm not good enough.
Mark, what's the best place for people to find out more about you? I will put, of course, your book links in the show notes.
We want everybody, because of our ask, it's going so fast. We've created askthebookclub.com. And if you go to askthebookclub.com, it's free. We want to teach everyone to become a master asker. That's one. And then you can go to any of my websites like markvictorhansen.com or go on YouTube and you can see all that stuff, right? We get tons of stuff and we got a lot more coming but I want everyone to create whatever they're supposed to do because this is my zone. And I hope every one of the little things I do and teach wakes them up, wakes every individual up because the cliche you asked about earlier is if it is to be, it's up to me. government's not going to change the world and make it work. So it's up to us.
Absolutely. And how prolific a writer you are is, I think it's inspiring for others to, to look and do something like that.
That's my hope.
I want to thank you very much for our conversation, Mark. It's been illuminating in many ways, and thank you very much. Any last parting words?
Just I'm very thankful to you, and I look forward to doing it again with you, sir.
I hope you enjoyed listening. If you have, please share this episode with someone who you think will benefit from it. If you want to know more about what I do, visit my website agikeramidas.com. And until next time, stand out, don't fit in,